And one of the first things that I wrote on that list was Chicago Marathon. Because it's so outside of my character. I'm not an athletic dude. These dudes up here that I grew up with can attest to that. I'm not. I got one trophy in my life. One. For being in T-ball in 3rd grade. Man, we came in 3rd place. The only reason why I got it was because I signed up and paid the registration fee. I was put out in center field. Do you know why? Because no one hits the ball to center field in T-ball. And I used to get yelled at. They'd be like, Gutierrez, stand up! I was too busy picking little flowers and whatnot, man. I didn't care about that. I never had an athletic bone in my body. You want to know how to dive off a stage and land on some kids' heads? I can tell you that. You want to know which way to run in baseball? I'm like, I think you go that way, right? I don't know these things. I don't have that in me. And I did. I struck out once in T-ball. That's how bad I was. Who strikes out in T-ball? It's right there. Thanks for reminding me of that. Great, I'm going to go home and cry. And I wanted to take myself out of that comfort zone. I wanted to take myself out of what people would think that I would want to do. And I said, you know what? I want to do the Chicago Marathon. Because what do I know about running? You know what? And growing up, you know what they called me when I used to run? Fairy feet. You want to know why? Because when I ran, I kicked my feet up, man. I was having fun. What did I know? I didn't know I looked gay. But that's what the kids said, and they all called me fairy feet. And they made fun of me all the time. And so I put on there, I said, Chicago Marathon, you know? And I was like, dude, there's no way I'll ever accomplish this. This is so ridiculous. And I signed up for it. And I said, okay, I've never had any coaches. I've never had any kind of formal training in this kind of thing. And I said, yo, I'm going to go out and buy a crappy pair of running shoes and some ridiculously short running shorts. And I'm going to put those on and I'm going to run to that lamppost. And I'm going to run back. And I ran to it and I ran back. The next day I said, I'm going to run to the next one. And I ran to that one and I ran back. And then the next day I said, I'm going to run to the next block. And then the next block. And then the next block. 5 years later, I live right down the street. I ran to the Shed Aquarium and back. It was 15 miles. 15 miles! I did with no coaching. No one running next to me telling me how to, straighten my form up, or how to breathe correctly, or how to hydrate myself, or get the appropriate amount of carbohydrates. I didn't have any of that. I had to figure this all out on my own, and I did it. I did it all by myself. And I said, okay, no time like the present, man. You've never ran 15 miles before. 15 miles, that's a long way. That's a long way. And so I went to ChicagoMarathon.com and went to go sign up for it. But it was sold out. So I went on to Craigslist and I found a wonderful girl who had injured herself and was going to she was going to sell me her number. And she sold me her number. I had 1 month. 1 month. And you're saying, okay, well, you're in fairly good shape, Chris. You've ran 15 miles. You can probably do it. Let me tell you, do you know how long a marathon is? It's 26.2 miles. 26! I just ran 11 extra miles. How the hell are you going to squeeze out an extra 11 miles? And I said, well, okay, I'm just going to, hopefully on Gatorade and a little determination, And I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to tell anybody about this, but I made a point to go onto my journal online, and I said, hey, I'm going to be doing the Chicago Marathon. Me. I'm going to be doing the Chicago Marathon. And if you want to watch my success or failure, you can log in to Chicago Marathon, type in this bib number right here, and you can follow me because I'm going to have a little chip on my shoe, and you can find my little dot going along the course. And I did that as extra motivation because I knew that I would have to come back and either say, yes, I finished it, or no, I did not. And I knew that there was going to be a lot of people out there. And I knew a lot of people didn't believe in me because I didn't really believe in me. And a lot of my friends didn't believe in me, and I saw it in their eyes. And I was like, yo, man, I signed up for the marathon. They're like, wait, how long is that? It's 26.2 miles. Well, wait a minute. Have you ran that before? No. What's the farthest you've ran? 15? Wait, that's an extra 11 miles. An extra 11 miles. I said, yep. He said, how the hell are you going to do that? I said, I don't know. He said, all right, dude, good luck. And I could see it in their eyes. You know when somebody doesn't believe in you, and I could see it, and they're like, yeah, man, we totally support you, man. Oh, man, how are we going to tell this dude? how are we going to make him feel good about himself when he doesn't do it? And I could see that in their eyes. A month later, I was standing in a group in a sea of thousands of yuppies. And you're saying to yourself, well, that's a pretty big generalization, Chris. You can't say that they're all yuppies. Well, yeah, you ever gone to a marathon and saw the sea of runners? There's not like there's the Latin King section. Oh, yeah, man. There's the metalheads. No, it just doesn't happen. You know, you don't see a bunch of burnouts running a fucking 26.2 miles. It just doesn't happen. So there I am, and I stick out a little bit because I stick out in my own hometown, and there I am, and I'm in my shitty running shoes, my tiny little ridiculously short running shorts, and I'm wearing a crappy black band t-shirt because I have to keep warm, and it's 44 degrees outside. And I'm sitting there, and I'm running in place, and I'm running in place. I'm trying to stay warm. And there's all these people around me. And they're sitting there and they're beeping things on their wrists, and they're fixing their $500 custom built running shoes, and they're playing with their zipping up their $200 track jackets and whatnot, and they're playing with their heart monitors and all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. And then I hear the gun go off. We start moving. We just try to get tens of thousands of people moving. It takes a little while, and so it took about 20 minutes for me to walk past the start line. And I heard a little beep, and the beep signified that I was in this. It was too late to turn back because I had a group of friends who were standing on the side and they were clapping. They're like, I really hope he finishes, man. And I heard they were playing Eye of the Tiger. They were playing Eye of the Tiger. And I thought, man, that's so typical. But I had my playlist on my iPod, I'm going to start out with some mid-tempo punk rock, build up. And you get to the rough, kind of gruff, hardcore stuff that's really going to get you through those last miles. And I knew that. I knew this was going to be a strenuous thing. And I knew that this is one of the most physically demanding things that you could voluntarily put yourself into. And I knew that because I heard the horror stories. I heard about them. I heard about the people who died as they crossed the finish line. I heard about the people who had heart attacks, who lost their lives doing this. And people do this every day, but people like me don't. And I ran mile 1, mile 2, mile 3, and I was running through the canyons of Chicago, and I was looking up and I said, there's the Sears Tower, there's Michigan Avenue, I work down there. And I'm with all these people, but I know I'm not with these people. And I'm doing it. And after all these countless hours of training and endless bottles of Gatorade and getting burned on my face from running and the icing of the shins and all of this stuff is built up to this one moment. This was my moment, and I wasn't allowed to choke because people were watching. People were watching from the side of the street. My friends were watching, and people I knew online were following me and waiting for me to fail. And I kept putting one foot in front of the other. And I made a promise to myself that day. I said, if you're not dead, you can still put one foot in front of the other. And if you can put one foot in front of the other, then you can walk across that finish line. You will not stop. You will not stop. And I kept running. And I go to mile 4 and mile 5, and I get to mile 5, and people are handing out Gatorade. And I get a Gatorade because I know I need to keep myself hydrated. And I get to mile 6, and I get to mile 7, and mile 7 is Boys Town. And it's the gay neighborhood of Chicago. And I get there, and I recognize a bunch of the people that I work with, and I recognize a bunch of the people that I'm friends with, and everybody's dressed up, and there's a lot of drag queens, and everybody's very festive, and they're all hitting on pop. And everything, yay, yay, yay! And I see my friends, and they're coming up, and I'm running, I'm like, yo, I know these dudes. I was like, yo, what's up? And they're like, yeah, yo, who's that? Oh, hey, what's up? They're like, ooh, man. Looks like a hoodlum. Looks like a little homeless man running with everybody. And as I'm running, people start to warm up. And as they start to warm up, they start taking off their clothes. They start taking off their little breakaway pants and their scarves and their hats and their shirts, and they're throwing them. And it looks like a waterfall of all these colors just flying through the air. And thousands of people are stripping off clothes. And I look over and I see this woman running, and she's running, and all of a sudden she goes, wham, and smashes her face on the ground. She smashes her face on the concrete, and I'm like, oh my God. That poor woman. And instead of someone picking her up, thousands of people just trample on top of her face. Because you can't stop thousands of people, man. And that's when I realized that it wasn't about getting A to B, it's about surviving. And there was just all these just piles of clothes that people were tripping on, and I'm jumping all over the place. I'm a nimble little dude, I'm kind of hopping all over the place. That's where my fairy feet came into use.